welcome, Celina. Um, Tell us about you, about Claire and me, and all the amazing things that you've been building for the last couple of years.
Happy to. Thanks for having me. It's really nice to be here, and it's really nice to speak to people who are interested about Antler, which is part of my origin story. So, my name's Celina. I'm co-founder and co-CEO of Clare&me, which is a conversational AI for people with anxiety and panic to talk to over the phone. So, whenever people are excessively worrying or hitting a panic attack or anxiety attack, they can basically reach out to Claire anytime and have a chat with her on the phone to reduce whatever they're suffering from in the moment. All without humans, basically. And to date, we've raised over 3 million. We have over 6,000 active users this year, who've rated their interactions with 80% of helpfulness, we're really proud of. My personal background is I have a degree in business, worked for Google for 3 years in digital growth, did a coding bootcamp, and then led the tech team for the first 1.5 years. I think that's kind of like the brief outline on me.
Okay. Indeed, seems like only yesterday that we talked. You actually, for the first time, you actually joined Antler not only with a different idea but also with a different
Oh,
person that you had in mind to
yeah.
start a company with initially. Um, but ended up building an amazing relationship with Emilia, out of which Claire and me then came. Tell us a little bit about that team formation. Kind of how did you become a team?
Yeah, I think like it was totally unexpected for me. I think anything that I thought how this worked was not how it worked. I think you technically think about this ideal of like working with someone and then figuring out that you're both ready to start a company. And that's where I was. And that's how I started working with the first person that I left Google with, who was a colleague of mine at Google. But then we really quickly decided that this wasn't really going to go anything further. It wasn't gonna like work out like down the line, which I think in the end was the best thing that happened to me, because I basically met Emilia on a like pure friendship basis in the very beginning, because we didn't think we were going to work together. And then at some point we're like ideating and talking about different things, and then we were like, actually, why don't we try working together? Like, why didn't we think about this? It had been like 3 weeks at this point, and we just like talked as friends and like helped each other work on different ideas and in different constellations until we finally came to the conclusions. And it was really interesting because I think initially on paper both of our profiles looked a bit similar, but whenever we worked together, we like complemented each other so well, and still do to this day. Yeah, again, it was the best thing that could have happened to me, and I'm really grateful for that.
Yeah, you already started talking about it. So, where kind of where did that idea for Claire and me come from, and when did you know kind of this was the one?
Mm. Yeah, so Amelia and I were both really deeply rooted in the mental health space. Amelia is a psychologist, and then my mother's a therapist and became a therapist when I was 13, 14. So it was my entire upbringing. It was about psychology, mental health, and destigmatizing the topic and improving access. And we had a very different approach. So we wanted to take a totally different angle at this and challenge anything that had been done in the space before, to find something that would actually stick and that would actually make a change. And even though like Amelia and I are really like, we're like people, and then we go for the super tech oriented idea. And it was a very like user focused iteration. So we had this hypothesis around that people would be able to formulate relationships with technology, with AI, which if you ask people logically, they all said no. But once you gave them the opportunity to interact, it turns out it was actually quite interesting and compelling to a lot of people. So I think how we came up with the idea was a lot of iteration, and like immediately we talked to users. I think one of the first things that we did was validating an idea was not to just hypothetically talk about it with people, but to give them something that they could interact with to understand, is this something that has potential? Does this like to validate our hypothesis? And it became very clear very fast that mental health is something that a lot of people don't want to speak to with another human being, but they have so stigmatized about it that they'd rather confess into technology than in human beings. And this is kind of the track that we've been on ever since.
Um, and quite the track it's been. So you started building this a bit over 2 years ago. Kind of once
Mhm.
you'd zeroed on this is the team, this is what we're building. And it's been quite the journey with lots of proud moments. But what would you say is kind of the proudest moment of Clare&me in that journey so far?
Ooh, one is really hard to pick, but I think one of them, there's obviously a little bit of that "we told you so" because there's a lot of people who like there's a lot of people who are like, AI is not going to last, like this, like conversing with technology. Like we even had like very knowledgeable people say this is not where society is going to go, and we were like, it's happening, we're telling you it's happening. And I think where it was kind of satisfying when like December ChatGPT launched, and it all became very commonly used, that we were like, we told you so. So that was a bit of a proud moment to be right. But to be honest, I think the more like deeply ingrained proud moment for me is the first time that we spoke to a user that was like, this product is my safety net. Like talking to Claire is like, this is what I go back to whenever I feel insecure, whenever I don't really know what to do, or I feel helpless with my anxiety. We were like, oh my God, we're onto something. And this is something that can like totally change the world. And this is something that can have the impact that we want it to have. As impact founders, I think that was definitely the one that motivated me and pushed me forward the most, and still does to this day.
Um, So going back to the beginning, so you joined us in spring 21 for initially those 2.5 months where you met Emilia, and you started kind of building the early nucleus of Claire, and then we've been working closely ever since, and in very different phases and very different ways of working with one another. What's the most valuable moment in your Antler experience to date?
I think, to be honest, in the very beginning, there's a lot of people who might be questioning whether it makes sense to work so closely with a venture capital investor so early on. And I think for us, it was the best decision that we could have made. I think, like especially you and Christoph, like you challenged us to think big, to have the confidence to grow this idea, to grow the vision, and to really like challenge the status quo. And I think it takes a lot of confidence to do that also. And I don't think that we both, like Emilia and I, had as much of that as we have today. And part of it is because of you to support us in this process, and to work on something that is understandably very much out there. Like 2.5 years ago, it was very out there. And for you to trust into this vision and to give us the confidence, I think was very meaningful, and to still sort of like think bigger, and you still do that to this day. And I don't think that's a very easy thing to do, because you join in so early and the companies change so quickly over time and you grow so fast, but you still manage to adapt your advice and your input to whatever stage we're at, and find it very helpful, especially in the motivation, in the way that you look at the world and how you're going to see the world develop, like is really important to us. Not only gives us confidence, but also challenges us.
Thank you. Thank you for saying that.
You're welcome.
Makes me kind of blush. But we try, we do our best. A bunch of people here listening in that are thinking about kind of joining Antler. Maybe last question from me, kind of what advice would you give to them, kind of to other people who are thinking about joining Antler?
I think I like my personal experience was is extremely beneficial. I thought about like starting a company for a long time, and I think the chances to find someone that is aligned with you, is interested in the same fields, and has this is at that point at the same time as you, is extremely small. Like the odds are against finding the right person there. And I think when I left Google, I was really concerned that I was never going to work in it, or like be in an environment where I would have such inspiring personalities around me, because obviously they like have a great selection process. They have a lot of demand. Like there's a lot of people that want to work for Google. But then when I joined Antler, that fear was immediately vanished, because you did such a great job at selecting the right type of people in the cohort with very diverse backgrounds, very diverse perspectives. And I think that really helps. And even you might have like parts of the team ready, or you might think that you have parts of your idea ready, but I think like even the idea to Clare&me, like it developed so much with the people that we worked with at such speed, because you are able to tap into expertise within that cohort so quickly. Like we worked with hardware people for a bit, and then we worked with like AI people for a bit. And I think all of that like helped shape the vision that we have today, which is a very unique opportunity. And I think it, like, if you're early on, I think it helps you to really like make sure to fine grade like the final idea, and to make sure you have that can last a little bit longer.
Great, thank you. Now let's get to the audience questions. They are already rolling in here. Let's just go top to bottom. Valeria is asking, what was the hardest challenge you've faced during the Antler residency?
The hardest challenge. Well, I mean, definitely the point where the first partner that I worked with, and I decided that it wasn't going to continue. That was really hard, because I basically stripped myself of anything that I thought this was going to be, like anything. I thought that I had to know the person that I was going to work with for a little bit longer, and that it's highly unlikely that I'm going to meet someone for 2 to 3 years. And like, I can tell you, like, Emilia and I were always going to work together. Like, I think this is it for life. And it definitely worked, and it proved me wrong. But that was really hard. Like, I think to trust the process, like the amount of times that I told myself in the program to be like, I trust the process, and it helped, it worked out. But that was really hard. So whenever like I decided to leave the old idea behind, and to leave the old partnership behind, and to trust into something new, and to give the confidence, and invest my time, was really hard, but definitely worth it.
Okay, and then next question is kind of, what was the aha, what was the eureka moment building a business in the early stages?
Again, like, I think what we did was we didn't really care about the beauty of the product or how it worked. I think for us it was really, what does it do to people? So we like onboarded people with a 3-day-old prototype, and we saw how they used it, and I think that was the aha moment. We were like, people are taking phone calls, people are responding, people are doing calls that are like 30 minutes long, and we were like, we need to invest further into this. This was the eureka moment, I think.
Yeah, we're technically up on time, but there's a bunch of more questions coming in, so I'll pick a couple more. Because this is fascinating. Next question from Hans is, when was Antler instrumental in supporting you in a very critical situation, and what did they actually do? Excellent question. What did I actually do?
I'm thinking. So there's a couple different critical. So there's one in the program that I remember very vividly, where Christoph, I don't know if he can do that today, so please don't have that expectation. I know the program's grown. But there was a critical point where, you get a lot of feedback. You get a lot of feedback in the program every week. You get input, and then you try to work that into the idea. And at some point, we didn't know what we knew. We were like, okay, it's all up in the air, and we no longer knew what we want to hold on to and what not. And so Christoph took his time, and he like with his consulting background, he like helped us to formulate, okay, so you have all of these ideas, but you need to structure like the today to tomorrow in like the way that you're going to get there. I think it's going to make it a lot more tangible. And I think that really helped us to make sure, what are the things that we believe in today, and what are the things that we really want to hold on to today, even though if some of the things might change down the line. That was a very critical moment. And then at the same time, I think where they really active, so they're like, Christoph like literally took an afternoon and walked us through and coached us through like what we really believed in and what we think we could do, and where we really trusted this would make a change. And the other point was, so both Emilia and I are first time founders. And as you might know, fundraising is all about the network. And so we didn't necessarily have as much in the beginning. And it was extremely valuable to have at that point in time Antler to sort of rely on to, and to make sure that you could help us with your network and make us introductions where you thought fit. That was quite helpful in like navigating how all that scene worked. And we actually got our first angel investor through Antler also. And that was, I can't tell you how helpful that was, obviously. So yeah.
And pure serendipity. I remember I brought him into the office for a very different topic, and he just saw you sitting in the corner, walked over, and
yeah. So be in the office,
in love.
I think. Yeah, but like be present. I think as nice as remote is, and if you can, it's good to like let serendipity like take the reins and be there.
Yeah. Now last question. One top tip for aspiring founders looking to develop their own business and build their team. So as broad as it gets, one tip for people here.
So usually what I think, so like on this journey, there's going to be a bunch of times where like, why me? Like where you're starting to doubt yourself. And I think that's very natural because at this point in time, all the odds are against you. And because if it was evident, then someone would have done it. And I think it's okay to trust your gut feel. And if you've been in the work environment for a while, then you're maybe used to or have been trained. Like I've been very trained to focus on data and to find the proof points in the data. But obviously early on, you don't really have that. So to tune into your intuition, I think is extremely important. If it is finding your co-founder, if it is finding the right problem to work on, if it is finding the first solution that you want to work with, I think if you are connected to your intuition, then you're always going to know what to do. Like I think I truly believe in us understanding the ecosystem and understanding how to navigate. We're flexible human beings, so I think as soon as we notice and we let ourselves notice, we can react the best. So tune into your intuition, I think.
I love that. I love that. Don't delegate the hard judgment calls to the illusion of data in the early stages that you don't have anyways.
Yeah, 100%.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Celina. This has been a blast. Thanks for taking the time. I know you have a busy schedule ahead of you in Warsaw. I'll let you get back to that. Thanks for joining us. And thank you to everybody else for joining us. And have a great day, everyone.